Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the debrief. Geo, how you feeling?
To be honest with you, I'm actually more wound up than I was yesterday. So I was getting really annoyed during the game and I was really angry. Then when Declan Rice scored, I sort of went numb.
Sure,
I
yeah.
don't know. It just sort of my emotion just disappeared like that when he scored, and I just went a bit like I had to be him kind of thing. And then from then on, watching the game, my anger disappeared at that point. I was frustrated and wound up, but I wasn't angry per se. But I'm more angry today, actually, looking back
Mm.
at it. I had intended to watch the game again. I'm not going to bother, truth be told. I watched the highlights again. I thought that would do. That's my research done, if you like, ahead of this video and the player ratings. I'm not doing any more, but watching the highlights is enough to make me angry again.
Yeah, I think I'm the other way round. Although I think after the half time, all of my anger just sort of seeped out and dropped. Anymore, if anyone was watching the watch along, I was angry at half time. And in the second half, I was just like, whatever, man. Don't really care. Just at this point, it just is what it is. And then, yeah, I can't act like I'm any more angry now, as I am just sort of. I don't even know what the word is. I don't even know what the word is because I remember we sat here after the Liverpool game, the cup game, and we were both quite angry about that. We were both still like really frustrated by everything that happened. And here I'm not even that. I'm just sort of like, I, I don't know. I just don't know. Which, if anything, I feel like is slightly worse. Nick by day, by the way, 100% correct. My girlfriend watched bits of it back, and she said, "You can tell you're getting angrier because we can see less and less of you." Because I was just seeping further and further down. But yeah, I don't know. It was such a bad. It was such a bad. There was nothing. There was just nothing there. There wasn't a single thing where I could look at. There's other games like Man United game, right? I could go, oh, I think we did well in the first half, especially. I think we had put in an okay performance, sort of thing. There's been other games where we've done badly, where I can sit here and I can go, oh, there's that. Oh, there's that. This one, I've just like, there is nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Everything was bad yesterday, and one thing that's wound me up in Gonzo suggested to do a video about is the set pieces or the lack of being ready for Arsenal's corners in particular. It's really pissed me off because there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for yesterday at all. But even if you were to try and sort of make excuses for one or two of the goals, one thing you can't do is how he defended those set pieces. It just shows that there was just no preparation. And the worst thing about this is Moyes at the minute actually has time on the training ground. The first half of the season, because we're playing European football, it's difficult. It's difficult to get time to implement new ideas, new tactics. It is hard. But at the minute, we've got a week between games. We've got loads of time. This is the prime time for us to be getting ready for the next game. There's no excuse for not being ready. We're looking worse than ever before at the moment. There's nothing about us. We've got absolutely nothing in regards to what the opposition are going to do. It's pathetic. I still think we were one player away from our starting 11, and David Moyes is starting 11 yesterday. Yes, Paqueta and Antonio returning would be good, but you're not going to convince me he's going to play Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta and Antonio from the start in the game. You won't convince me. No chance. He'll need three of his four midfielders in there as well. You won't do it, Charlie. What's he going to do? Play 4-2-3-1? He won't do it. He'll play three of them, and the other one will
No,
be on the bench.
I agree. I think there's an outside bet, but I do agree.
Okay, but then that's one player away from his starting 11 yesterday. So it's not even like we're
Yeah.
down to the bare bones. We're missing one player in Paqueta, and his replacement is Ben Johnson. But we're missing the worst thing. In a weird way, one of the most insulting things I read yesterday on the review was from an Arsenal fan, and he wasn't being malicious or anything. He said he didn't watch the game, but he heard it was 6-0, so he was buzzing. He says he's going to watch the game back, expecting the best Arsenal performance he's ever seen. And he said the win's actually been taken out of my sails because while we were good, we weren't that good. So you were just that bad. We won 6-0 because of you. But he was expecting to watch the game and watch this incredible Arsenal performance that blows us
Yeah.
away. But he didn't witness that. He actually witnessed West Ham just being so bad. It was easy. So he's actually, so in a weird way, I thought, how insulting is that to somebody? Like I said, the comment wasn't malicious of that. But that just shows how bad we were yesterday. An Arsenal fan is almost disappointed at how they played. But like I said, context is important. You saw the score, thought we must have been superb. They weren't. They were good, but they weren't even that good. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think when you look at performances in general and results and all that sort of stuff, I think you can generally break it down as opposed to like 3 or 4 things. I guess you can break it down into 2: your performance, the opponent's performance. You can break it down a bit more, I guess, into what the manager does, what the player does, luck to some extent, and then what your opponent does as well. And like I think Arsenal were very good. I thought they were very good, and I thought Arteta nailed it. But everything else on the other side went so. It wasn't like I say. There wasn't any moment when any of those things went well. The manager absolutely screwed it up. The players were crap. We rolled snake eyes when it came to luck, and Arsenal were very good. But it's not like you say. It's not like they were insane, out of this world, just unbelievable. Like, I've seen a lot of people, or I saw a lot of people, I should say, in the aftermath who are general football fans or football fans of opposition teams as opposed to just Arsenal or West Ham or whatever, who were going like waxing lyrical about Arsenal's performance. And yes, Arsenal were very, very good. I'm not even going to begin to pretend like they weren't. I thought, like I say, I was so impressed by the way Arteta completely nailed it. Like, he didn't even begin like when the periods where we did have the ball a lot and they were just sitting in a low block, because it's very clear we cannot break down a low block to save our lives, even when we do have our strongest 11, even when we do have Paquetá, we struggle. And then the rest of the time they were just like playing their game, doing their thing. But at the same time, it takes 2 to tango, and their tango partner, Jesus Christ. Like, I haven't read too much of the stuff Moyes has said after the fact. I don't usually look into it that deeply anyway, because I frankly don't care. But I did see I did see him making comments about some of the like players and lack of doing much, defending stuff that they need to do, the basics. And it's maybe the right message, wrong messenger when it comes to him saying it specifically. Because I watched back some of those goals. That's why I watched back the goals yesterday. It's comical. It's comical. They're getting Kurt Zuma and Aged, right? We're watching. How tall is Trossard?
5'8", 5'7", I don't know.
just finding free space and heading it like goals and attempts in with ease, and like, how is this happening? Like, usually I'm not the sort of person that, over this last sort of month, 2 months, however long it's been, 3 months probably, where there has been a lot of pressure on David Moyes, and when we've lost games, I often see a sentiment or sentence along the lines of, "You're a defensive manager and you can't even get that right," which I would usually say is incredibly, not incredibly unfair, but I would usually make the argument that it's unfair. My God, there's not doing the basics. Then there's not doing the basics. It was embarrassing to watch. Like, how is this happening? Kurt Zuma can't move, but usually when he has to defend in the small space he can actually inhibit, he's incredible at it. Excuse me? Excuse me? I don't know.
Yeah, Moyes basically started by saying, "I take responsibility. It's my tactics," and then went on to blame the players. So it didn't really sound like he's taking it. But he's doing that thing he does all the time, and he just infuriates me when he basically. I knew what he was going to say before even. As soon as that game finished yesterday, you were saying to me, "What is Moyes going to say?" We all knew he was going to say, basically, "Tell us you've never had it so good at West Ham. Remember where you were when I took over in the relegation zone." He always trots out this bollocks. Well, factually true.
Yeah.
But he's removing everything. He's removing the money he's spent, the time he's had, which he must be the 3rd longest serving manager in the Premier League behind Klopp and Pep. Maybe Arteta just pips him. I'm not sure. Arteta's been there for 4 years as well now. So he's at worst 4th longest serving manager in the Premier League.
Yeah.
You don't get that time in anymore. So when he removes everything, the fact that this is his squad now, this is your squad. When you took over, that wasn't your squad. Well, it is now. This is your team. You've had a long time. You've had lots of windows, lots of money to spend. This is now your squad. These are your tactics. 4 years after you've taken over, you're playing Ben Johnson left wing.
Yeah,
this is the situation we're in. You're the manager. Under your stewardship, we are playing Ben Johnson left wing. So yes, okay, we were in a relegation battle when we took over. Yes, but if we weren't, you wouldn't have got the job. The only reason you got the job is because we're in a relegation battle. If we were mid-table, you wouldn't have got it. You got it because David Sullivan was desperate, and you took it because you, David Moyes, you were desperate. Which previously kicked you to the curb, and you couldn't find a new job. So 18 months later, whatever, once Pellegrini got the dunt, we came back to you because you were still unemployed. Nobody wanted you. After what you harp on about, you and Stuart Pearce continuously tell us that when you first came in and kept us up, you deserved to stay. Well, no one else felt like that because nobody came and got you when you were unemployed for 18 months. Nobody touched you. We came back because we were desperate and in a relegation battle. And he's done a good job to get us where we are today. We're in a good position today as a club. And this is why we can potentially dream of some of the better managers in world football. Maybe not the creme de la creme. We're not like Xabi Alonso was always a pipe dream. But the category under that, elite managers is what I call it. And we can dream of having them because it's realistic. Because of the wages on offer, because of the squad that we currently got, because we're in the Premier League, we're in London. There's a lot of pull factors for West Ham. This is a really good job up for grabs. David Moyes is constantly trying to make on as if the job he's doing is a very difficult one, as if he's punching above our weight. He's trying to make on that's an achievement. We're in the top half of the Premier League. It's not an achievement. It was. When you finished 6th in the Premier League, that was an achievement. When you finished 7th, that was still an achievement. Today, I don't consider it to be an achievement to finish in the top 10 of the Premier League with this squad that we've got. Now, he's a victim of his own success to some extent because he's got us to this position. But it's not just that. Declan Rice has also got us to this position. His performances and him leaving for 100 million. To some extent, David Sullivan has got us to this position. Rob Newman's contributed. Everybody's contributed to getting us here. It's not just him. He's been the manager. But he just keeps on going on as if you have to ignore what's happened so far, which is no win in 7, been playing horrendous for a while now. You have to ignore that because 4 years ago, you were in a relegation battle. Fuck off, mate. We'll judge you in 2024 if we want to. We don't need told. The fact is that he has to go back 4 years to justify today. That tells you a lot. Anyway, told you I was annoyed.
yeah, I know. The thing is I feel like this is where it becomes such a difficult conversation, and he is slash has done a very good job with the cards that he was dealt. The problem is, I can't think of a better card analogy, so I'm going to drop that one. I'm going to drop that one. I don't know enough about card games, Geo. Snap. I don't know. The problem is your. How do I word this? I think it's one of my big frustration when it comes to the David Moyes conversation, and I'm gonna, for people to watch along who are watching it, who saw me yesterday trying desperately to avoid talking about it, we're here now. One of my biggest problems when it comes to this is he has done a good job, and I feel like there is a significant. I feel like we do completely ignore the fact that he does have to work with David Sullivan, and part of the future of the club is good that we've hired Tim Stuyton. I know he hasn't done. I agree with you where I don't think he is the Lord and Savior. I think it is a step in the right direction. We actually have someone in that position for the first time, which is a good thing. That doesn't ignore the first several years where it isn't there. And actually, when you put this in that situation where he does have it, with the current structure we have, it's another cook in the kitchen. It's just another guy to sort of try and figure things out. And we will get there over time with that stuff. I hope, I pray, but we aren't there yet. The problem is, it is a rod for your own back. One, like you say, I think he is the victim of his own success in a sense, because we have been very good over his tenure. We have done incredibly. So when we aren't doing that, it becomes unbelievably obvious. And the second thing to say is, well, what happened with Fornals and Ben Rama? Like, I think he's solely to blame for that? No, but at the same time, I can't imagine he wouldn't have signed off on that. I can't imagine there wouldn't have been some moment in the last several days where there wasn't a conversation between the three of them, if we say it in those terms, be it Moyes, Sullivan. Let's just say, for example, Noble would probably be in that room, but I don't understand. But let's just say the three of them, right? You can't have said there wasn't a moment at some point in the last couple of days, at least, where there wasn't a conversation where he went, right, what if it is a situation? What do we do? If we do end up losing Fornals and Ben Rama, is that something we can afford to do? Because you think it's not like you don't have the time and luxury to think of these things. Like, even if a bid came in on the final day, let's say that bid for Ben Rama came in on the exact final day, and you went, oh my god, what do we do? You've probably thought this through. It doesn't take long to think it through. It's not difficult to think these things through, and that's where you have to go, there's a problem here, because you can't get away with that. That's a rod for your own back making. I don't know what the phrase is. You've screwed yourself there. You can't. There's no other way of putting it. And I think it becomes a very difficult thing. And it's similarly with the comments I saw, because I saw the exact comments you saw, right? The ones where he sort of said, "I take responsibility. The players have to take responsibility," or whatever he said. The way he worded it, right? Yes, I agree with you, my G. But at the same time, it's just such a, I don't know, man. It's such a thing that's so fraught and difficult to talk about, because it's such basic nonsense that's so easily avoidable. Like the Ben Rama thing. I mean, I've spoken about this on other videos. I've said it in private to people. Ben Rama, yeah, that one should have happened. Frankly, he hasn't been good enough for a long time. He sort of got... I was surprised. I kept being surprised last season because David Moyes put his faith into him and used him consistently. I was like, really? Ben Rama? That's the one you're going with? Okay, sure. Okay, fair enough. But he did. But he hasn't been good enough for a long time. The deal was pretty good for Ben Rama, by and large. Fine. Fornals it wasn't. Fornals it wasn't. And look, me and you might have something in the back of our minds about Maxwell Cornet. The chat might have something in the back of their minds about Maxwell Cornet that goes, yeah, he should be the guy doing this. But Moyes very, 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 very clearly, for the entire time, for at least a year at this point, has not had any faith in Maxwell Cornet. So why the hell was he the one who was left? Because that puts us in a situation where, look, as much as it was, and I agree with you about the 10 of the 11 or whatever, where we've got our second choice right back, at some points this season, arguably our third choice right back, playing left wing. How has that come to pass? How? Because, and if anything, that shows just how far down the pecking order Maxwell Cornet is. That's not even, oh, I prefer Said Ben Rama and Fornals. That is a damning indictment on Maxwell Cornet in terms of David Moyes' opinion of him. Not as him as a player, because certain things are certain things, but just him as a player. That's a damning indictment, which at that point goes, well, what the hell is he? Why have we been left with a situation where if Paquetá is injured, that's the only guy we have? Like, it just does not add up to me. I can't, and that's only a problem of his own making and their making. You do have to include the others, but there's no way he wasn't involved in that conversation, and there's no way you can tell me that in the final days of that window they didn't all sit down in a room and at no point did this cross any of their minds. You just can't tell me. And if you're telling me that they sat down and they did that, and the opinion was, we'll put Ben Johnson there, it just can't exist. And this is coming from Ben Johnson superfan Bele Madman over here. You can't tell me that existed and at any point was considered a good move. And that's not to say that if we had Fornals, we wouldn't have lost 6-0 last night. Obviously. But we might have been able to have some attacking output after the last 3 games. Like, and Ben Johnson's done an outstanding job for what he's having to do for a guy who doesn't play that position. I can't ask anything more of him. You know what I mean? But someone with some semblance of sort of like feeling in the role and not having to completely change everything up and all this other sort of stuff would kind of be preferable. Would kind of be preferable. And again, that is again coming from Ben Johnson, superfan. But yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. I don't. I just don't know after that game, Gio. That's the thing. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not angry. I could be like the set pieces thing. Oh my god, you saw me the other day with set pieces. Stop aiming at the near post. It's not that difficult, man. Like we look at the Declan Rice to Gabriel. Was it Gabriel who headed it in? Like
Saliba scored the corner.
it's such a basic. It's one of the most basic corners I've ever seen. Like Declan Rice can kind of hit a knuckleball when he wants to. We saw it for the free kick one, where that one there's some he's putting some swaz on that one. But the first one, it's like a corner I would take. Do you know what I mean? He's just sort of like he's hit it and it's arcing and it's whatever. It's just a basic corner, and then the other guy basically heads it in. And like I watched first of all, I watched the defense in that moment. And there's so many, like, where are you all? What is going on here? Not to be a drunk Delia Smith.
Do I know where they all are? I did the player ratings with Gonzo and I went and got it's a crap screenshot, and I'll maybe do a video about it later and do it in a bit more detail. But it was something that really pissed me off was our lack of preparation for defending set pieces, because Arsenal have been using this tactic for a few weeks now. We weren't ready for it. This is the goal they scored. Now there was a corner previous to this one which Areola got something on. It wasn't convincing, but he was able to just tilt it away and divert it, and we recovered from it. But this one was the goal that he scored from. And here, look at our defence. So you got Ward-Prowse, Duchet, Johnson, Zuma, all looking over their shoulders, going, Rice is just a way to take it. Rice is now moving towards the ball here. And Saliba comes in at the back post and scores. But Alvarez gets done. He's the one that's under it. And look where he is. He's defending sort of the back post goal line. Ben White nudges Areola. But at this point, he's nowhere near Areola. But he goes towards him and gives him a little bit of a nudge just to prevent him from coming out. But look at our defence. Like, we know Arsenal are aiming at the back post. So the solution is to overload the front post.
We can't not zonal mark. There is something happen. Like, the training for corners in general. Like, again, people who watch the watch-alongs will know that I complain about this non-stop. Zonal marking, I get why we do it. I understand we have a bunch of big men, you put them in specific positions, and in theory, the ball comes in, you should be covered no matter what, and you're lessening the chances of losing your 1v1s. I understand that. But when I look at what happened with that goal specifically, everything bad happens. Every single thing. Like you say, Ben White comes across to Areola, sort of gives him a bit of thing. Then Areola comes out, but completely misjudges it because of him sort of being a little bit off kilter because being pushed and can't move into that space. But he's caught so far in no man's land, it's embarrassing. And then all of our big men are stood completely far away from the ball. And the thing is, that what they did hasn't even been the last couple of weeks. They did the exact same corner kick routines they were doing yesterday against us last time. Yeah. I remember watching it. They all congregate towards the back post, and then sometimes they spread across the front. And I was watching it, and I was like, that seems like a kind of nice way, but to try and get around our zonal marking, you sort of sow seeds of chaos by just not existing in a space and then all of a sudden existing in it. And they just didn't exist. And it's so basic. It's so unbelievably basic. And when we get a corner and we have Zuma, again, Alvarez, flipping Thomas Souček, all these big boys who are capable of headering it. Alvarez isn't the tallest guy, but who are capable of headering it. And we have James Ward-Prowse, arguably the best set piece taker in the league. We try and whip it in at the front post. When it's in swinger every single time. And it's worked once, I think. In the last game against Arsenal, we dared to do something ever so slightly different, and it went in first time. We didn't have to think about it. And yet we come back here, we get one chance. Bang, here it comes into the front post. Oh, good. Okay, well, that's going to work, isn't it? That's going to be useful. When you have these people, and this is the thing that frustrates me, and I think for me, I think this is what a lot of people say about David Moyes in general, because they look at like Paquetá, Kudus, Bowen, these good players, and think, why can't we be playing a better brand of football? I look at Suchek, Zuma, Aged, all these big boys who are good at heading, and I'm thinking, why the hell is our idea from these corner kicks, which is one of our main attacking outlets? Because we can't break teams down when they sit deep, therefore we're probably going to win corners off it. We bought James Ward-Prowse specifically for it. Why is our main attacking outlet in that sense trying to put it into this space where if it takes a deflection of someone or something like that, we get a bit lucky and it goes in? Or if someone gets a little flick on, it ends up in the back of the net. Why can't we put it in a way where we go, actually, these are big boys who are 100% going to dominate their opposition when it comes to this one specific... Thomas Suchek will win his header against most people in the league. Why are we not trying to capitalize on that as opposed to going, oh, let's try and do something a bit... Let's get a bit lucky here. It just doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't make sense. That's something I am frustrated about, because I'm like, you bought him for one specific purpose, and apparently it's to be lucky from corners occasionally. And occasionally, I mean, once this season. It's so annoying, Gio. It's so annoying.
Anyway, we'll take some comments in just a second. We'll let you guys have your say. We'll click on some of your comments. Before we do, just want to point you in the direction of SofaScore. This series that we're doing is in collaboration with SofaScore, which is the best place to go for your in-game statistics. If you want a little look at statistics but you don't know where to go, please download this app using the link in description or scan the QR code, which is beside Charlie's mug at the minute. It's completely free to download and you do not need to sign up. Once it's downloaded, you can access it immediately. You can go into West Ham's games, pick whatever one you want, and you can have a look at the lineup, click on the player, and it'll give you all their statistics for the game for that match as well. It's a really good place to start for sort of entry-level statistics if that's your thing. Even if it's not your thing, give it a download, have a little look. It gives you all the latest scores from around the world as well, including Ivory Coast winning the African Nations last night with Sebastian Haller scoring the winning goal as well. Maxwell Cornet sat on the bench watching us lose 6-0 while his fellow countrymen teammates won the African Nations a little bit later on in the evening. But if you could download the app, that would really help out the channel. Thank you very much. Right then, let's see what some of you are saying.
Can I say one thing very quickly about the app while you look for it, right? So you can find average player positions on there, right? So this is for us for the Arsenal game, right? And one of the things you can do very easily on the SofaScore app as opposed to others is you can show substitutes average positions. Look at Aaron Cresswell. He came on when we were like 6-0 down in the 75th minute or whatever it was. Look how deep he was. What are we doing here? What's this? We were 6-0 down. Explain it, please. Sorry, when I saw that yesterday, I was like, what is going on here, man? How are we going to get a goal? Anyway, what are the people saying?
Right, let's get your thoughts in. Just want to say thank you to Gaz, who put in £5 super chat, said, only just joined to watch from behind. I think the players have stopped playing for the manager, so time to go. And I'm still grumpy. Gaz, thank you very much. Was another one. JB said, this is Moyes' ball. Always too much pressure on the team to defend, so you're asking for mistakes, tactics and setup, and we're rubbish in the game. We've been playing like this for 2 seasons.
Playing like it since he came back, right? That's playing like it since he came back. Every team has, no matter what tactic you play, every team has some form of weakness. You know, we've seen us absolutely mug off De Zerbi teams, for example, make them look stupid this season, right? Man, when it goes badly, Jesus Christ.
Aqua says, Heitinga is caretaker manager now. Hammer Time says, anybody but David Moyes. I'm not going to any more games until he's gone. Empty seats should send Sullivan a clear message. Keith says, if you look at the bigger picture, our front three will want to be here next? Do you think our front three will be here next year? Just think how bad we'll be without Bowen, Kudus and Paqueta. Damien says, we know how we're going to play next week if Paqueta's not back. Sam says, Moyes is like one of them people who gets his wife crap presents for her birthday, but when confronted says, remember that one I got you 3 years ago? Someone said earlier when we were talking, I was having a rant, someone said, Moyes' missus burnt the tea last night, but remember she made a good roast in 2020. Acid said we can't afford to sack Moyes, but he could be sent on golfing leave and allow Heitinga a noble finish. Honestly, we can't sack him. He's on a big wage, 2.5 million a year, I think. So 50 grand a week. his contract currently expires at the end of June. So June, May, April, March. So you got 4 full months there. It's not that much.
Imagine a situation in which we sold players to make money, and then we sold them and then we used that money to get rid of a manager. Oh my lord!
I'm guessing.
Lord,
I'm guessing his payoff at the minute would be around, I don't know, around about 600, 700,000.
Sure,
quick
yeah.
mass in my head. The problem is you've got the rest of the backroom staff as well. Do you sack all them? Do you sack Kevin Nolan and Billy McKinley? Then it starts going up, but they're not on big wages. I think coaches aren't paid as much as some suspect. They're so well paid in comparison to the working man,
yeah.
but it's not. They're not paid millions. Some will be, but Kevin Nolan will not be paid millions. The manager himself, David Moyes, is on $2.5 million a year, which is a lot, but Nolan will be nowhere near that. So is it affordable for West Ham? It definitely is. It's definitely affordable. It's just Sullivan ain't got the cojones. He won't do it. There's no chance. You know, I don't like doing this, but in the review, people said, "Oh, he's got to go tonight," and I've just replied saying, "Well, there's no chance. There's none whatsoever." I would be shocked if Moyes goes before the end. I mean, we could lose the next 3 games. Then I think if we lose the next 2, Nottingham Forest and Brentford, then I think the pressure will get ramped up. But I think Sullivan will just go. I think Sullivan will be a little bit like what the pundits are, which is, well, it's Arsenal. I think he'll discard it. He'll be here for Nottingham Forest certainly, but if we lose that within Brentford, maybe then I'll start to think that they'd sack him. But at this point, I think the percentage is almost at 0.
You can go back and watch this, mainly because we've been doing this for such a long time now. The entire time Hammers Chat existed, 8.5 years or whatever, Sullivan has been in charge. The one consistent or one persistent has been his unbelievable, like, how late he is with getting rid of managers. Every single time, without fail. The one time he wasn't late with getting rid of a manager, arguably, was David Moyes the first time. That was the one time. And he thought, and the ownership structure, the people in charge of the club, felt like that was such a mistake. They went back and got him again. Now, to be fair, they didn't really have many options because they're not exactly the most learned people when it comes to football. So it's not like when we needed a manager the second time, they could go, there's this guy who did brilliantly in the Dutch league last season or whatever. That's just not their vibe, right? Right now, with the team in 8th and us still in Europe, there is not a chance right now that David Moyes will go like today, tomorrow, before the next game. He just won't. Like you say, if it goes very badly against Forest and then the game after and then the game after, we'll start to hear the usuals. You know, got a certain amount of games.
I think that's what you hear this week from. He'll be on Kevin Hugh. Kevin Hugh will be the ones that get it from David.
Sean will tweet out that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Because one thing you can always guarantee is right now, people like Kevin Hugh and Sean and Steinberg will be messaging Sullivan saying, "What's the deal?" And listen, they're journalists. That's their job. Their job is to try and get that information and create content off the back of it, and then we will take the journalists' content and we will give an opinion on what the reporters say. But Sullivan will be fielding questions today, whether it be on the phone or via email from people, West Ham journalists that want an update. And yesterday's defeat was big enough for the mainstream journalists to get involved. So those who are not affiliated with West Ham, like Jim White, like Sky Sports, they'll want a piece of the pie. They'll be also getting. So Sullivan will probably be fielding the most calls he has about David Moyes since this time last season when we were in a relegation battle and it was just everywhere. So Sullivan will have to say something to someone because he won't be able to. He will not be able to just ignore everyone. He will say something. And it will be, we're not going to give him a new deal yet, or the talks are put on hold. And it will be, he's got X games. And the next 4 fixtures are on paper winnable. Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Everton, Burnley. It's 4 winnable games. And I wouldn't be surprised if the board will come up with this fake target of points that Moyes must yield in order to just keep his job for the rest of the season. So I think we'll get that. We will get the bollocks coming out this week about how he's got the board are monitoring the next 3 games or something to decide whether Moyes keeps his job or not. And someone said, while we're in Europe, Moyes will never go. I agree with that. I think Europe will keep Moyes in a job for as long as once we're out of that competition. I think it might change.
I agree.
But
He probably would have gone last year if we didn't win the trophy. Now here's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
For me, trophy above everything else. Loved it, adored it. That's not to say anything, because in another situation I would defend that heavily. When people just discount the trophy, then it gets on my nerves. But the truth of the matter is, without the trophy last season, he probably would have gone. And that also is probably playing in the back of their minds when they make these decisions and going, we did horrendously last year in the league and yet we won a trophy. We just stick at it. Like, let's, if we're still in the cup, we still have a chance. And like you say, the second we're out of that, I think the conversation becomes incredibly different very, very, very fast.
AS says only Moyes are playing academy graduate at right back at left wing, having just sold two left wingers, arguably loaned another one out in Kyle Marshall, and having another left winger sat on the bench. Anthos says Sullivan needs to sell up and jack it in. We won't see the light of day until we have a manager, until we have a proper owners that can employ a proper manager.
I agree. I agree. I feel like there's been a step towards the right direction with Steiten, but at the same time, I still don't believe that he's fully in charge or has much control at all.
This is exactly what I would say. Employing Steiden's good, but only if he has the correct responsibilities to go with that job title, which I don't believe he does. I don't believe for 1 second. This is my fear regarding replacing David Moyes in the summer. Like, I don't want to get a new contract. But my fear is what Sullivan's going to do, because I will be shocked if he allows Steiden to be the man. He might be involved in the conversation, just like I expect Martin Noble to be involved in the conversation. And whether we like it or not, I expect Karen Bay to be involved in the conversation. The club have commented historically about how Brady and Gold would prefer certain managers. And, well, David Moyes, actually, the first time we let Moyes go, Brady and Gold wanted to keep him, and Sullivan overruled them. But it was noted, but about Brady's opinion on the manager, which I think, well, what's her direction in it? Why is she getting involved in this? But I think Sullivan will have to say. I think he'll have the final say in the summer. I could be wrong, but my fear is Sullivan will have that final say. And Xabi Alonso, when you go back to how Leverkusen recruited him, they took him from Real Sociedad's B team, essentially, Real Sociedad's B team, after they were relegated.
Yeah.
So it was a gamble. It was a gamble. Leverkusen, they'd done their homework and they decided that this is the man to take us forward. I think West Ham could do as much homework as they want and identify someone like Xabi Alonso. Would Sullivan employ Xabi Alonso based on that? No chance. None whatsoever. None. The amount of filters that bloke's got in place for the new manager is ridiculous. I could see him going to Stein and say, you can help identify the next manager. However, he has to have Premier League experience. Compensation must be none. That. Now go find a manager. Poor old Steiner's going to think, there's nobody. Like, what am I meant to do? You're Graham Potter.
And this is the thing. It's like, I would be for Graham Potter, right? In general, if it was a completely different structure around the Graham Potter. You know, there are people who, like, when you look at teams who play better than we play and who do well, it isn't just purely down to the manager. It's obviously hugely down to them. They're the one who influence on the pitch, and then a lot of the time owners hire people who play a style of football they want, blah, 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 blah. But Graham Potter did brilliantly, but he had this huge structure around him, buying how to identify the players, buying the players, and he was hired because he fit in the structure that they wanted, right? And that's true for almost any manager, really. That's kind of true for almost any manager. There aren't very many managers who can come in and completely do everything by themselves anymore. So it's not really a one-man fix. And that's my biggest concern with this whole thing. Because I look at it and I say, right, if Moyes goes, fine, we're looking for someone else who plays a better style of football, right? Ignoring the fact that we will fall down the table, but ignoring the fact that will happen whenever we do end up changing and trying to change our style. What are we going to do? Thomas Suchek playing Pep Guardiola keep ball? It's not going to happen, right? There will be some drop off before we go back into our position or whatever, right? The structure around them has to change. And Steiden, at least in that conversation now, when like you say, when you lay it out, and Sullivan's sitting there with the people around him, probably Noble, Steiden, potentially Karen Brady, or whoever else is in that conversation, right? At least there is someone who has a track record of picking out those people, or at least being in the conversations to be willing to take the risk on those sort of people, and having a better knowledge of European football, of football further afield. He spent enough time in Brazil during the summer to figure some things out. To try and to go. Here is a good manager, and then it's just a foot race on right. Good luck trying to sell it. Like that, now's the thing. Now's it's come time. Karen Brady sat there next to Sullivan like she does Alan Sugar. I don't know if he's up for this sort of thing, but he's gonna have to try and sell it to him, and whether or not he can do that remains to be seen. We saw him manage to do it with some players, but with not maybe 100% successful, for example, but we saw him managing some players, for example, with Osman, someone that very clearly was going out there, and that's not, you can't tell me that was a Sullivan guy. It made no sense whatsoever for it being Sullivan. For starters, he didn't even know who the right football agent was. Usually that's the one thing Sullivan gets right. This usually goes to the agent first. It's the one thing he gets right. So clearly that was from someone else than usual. But when it comes to managers, it remains to be seen whether or not he can make that argument to him.
Right, we'll wrap this up in a minute. Let's take some more of your comments. CF says he has to go. Can't blame everyone else. He has full responsibility for the players. He has ruined many players since he's been here. Players have gone on to be good again after David Moyes. Well, Fornal scored in his first game for Betis, and I believe Ben Rama had a pretty decent outing for Lyon yesterday as well. Ross says Sullivan needs a manager that would look to take the bull by the horns. He views Moyes as Fergie-esque. Potter isn't that sort of manager. Noel says De Zerbi has proven that the setup of Brighton is the star, not the manager. Potter was found out at Chelsea. I think it's a very good, fair comment.
I would probably disagree with the absolute definitiveness of it, but yeah, I would agree that the setup is definitely a star, 100% about that.
Mark says no disrespect against Potter, but I think the team and setup made him look good. Bill said, I can't believe Brady sits on the apprentice every week telling people about running a business and runs West Ham as a douche. She shouldn't get a say on anyone's business savvy.
I'll just say this very quickly because I've just shot shots at her there as well. I feel like Karen Brady does get a hard done by, mainly because she's basically just doing what Sullivan's telling her. That's the role in business. Like she's a business role. She comes in, she does what it is. Like she often gets lumped in like it was GSB, and I never understood why the B was in there because I'm like,
well, she was a large part of the stadium move, Charlie. While Sullivan
she
was responsible for a lot of the.
I know, I understand that, but also when they first bought the club, one of the first things they said in the press conference was the stadium. Like,
yeah, Sullivan wanted the stadium, but I think Brady was in charge of everything else. What you see in the stadium, I think, is on.
No, and that's again not to say she's done a good job. There are many things I disagree with.
But
I'm just saying
gets lumped in though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, you get rid of her, you're still going to get someone doing the exact same stuff. The reason she's there is because she's doing what Sullivan wants. Ultimately, and I think this is kind of what frustrates me a little bit about some of the conversations we've had over West Ham over the last 8.5 years, right? I feel like sometimes we're diagnosing the correct problem, but we're missing the cause, or whatever, however you want to word it. We're looking at symptoms.
Everyone wants them all gone.
No, but she often but what I'm saying is her role in this is negligible. Like I'm not saying she's doing a bang up job. I think there's plenty of things she could do better and has done wrong over the time and has fluffed 100%. But she just gets lobbed in because she's in the room. Like it doesn't matter. The person who is to blame, the person who is consistently to blame, is the big man, David Sullivan. Something he's never been called in his life. He's the one to blame, and I feel like we constantly sort of tiptoe around this, and it's just wild to me.
Brian had said we better come out fighting against Forest for the rest of the season. Keith says he always bangs on about the first cup in 43 years. Well, here's another stat. Heaviest top flight home defeat in 61 years. Daniel says, come on, Moyes is doing his best. The problem is that he failed to adapt to suit the modern game. If you're the only team in the league that plays like this, that has to tell you something. Well, there's one other, Crystal Palace, but that does tell you something. Jim says he agrees we need a positive manager. Moyes is negative. He was actually sacked. David said Moyes is the same man who tried to play a possession-based game at the beginning of last season, kept Souček in the heart of his midfield. Daniel said you could see Sullivan liking Carrick if he was out of contract, would look good and controllable. Lewis says, as someone that badly wanted him gone last season, I do not want Moyes to get sacked, even with the loss. By bloody hope behind the scenes they're carefully planning a replacement. That's my worry. Trini said Benny and Fornals are decent players. Anyone thought both weren't good enough or blinkered. Moyes has ruined every player in the squad. Not one player has improved. I disagree with that to some extent. I appreciate what you're saying, but I do think some players have improved. Maybe not enough.
But
Maybe more have been ruined in a.
also, there's a difference with Ben Rama. For example, I think Ben Rama is good enough to play Premier League football, but it's just in a completely different style than we should have bought in the first place. Because there's never been a prolonged period where I've gone, oh, Ben Rama suits this down to a T, which just raises so many questions about identification. Because what was the point in bringing him in the first place then?
Paul says our only glimmer of hope is that Sullivan now has to answer to other large shareholders. Fred says Moyes' phobia with opposition is crippling the players. He has to go now, get Heitinger and Keenan until the end of the season, or there will be murders. Matthew says we're going about winning a cup, but it was a poor cup, let's be honest. We never compete for the FA Cup or the League Cup. Cyclops said Brady's a fraud, where she is from Sullivan's coattails. A bully who's been given power and not earned a thing. Kerry says keeping Souček on for the full game yesterday and giving an armband in the second half says it all.
I mean, the leadership on the pitch was just non-existent yesterday. Where was it? When we're 3-0 down, 4-0 down? And the thing is, I often go back and forth on this, and I think to myself, is that something I just want to see as a fan? Do I just want to see someone just shouting? And is that actually something that's needed? Is what does that actually bring? But I didn't see anything yesterday at all.
Alex says Sullivan should have had a ball sack Moyes as manager and he would have approached Graham Potter. The funny thing is, last season Sullivan refused to approach Potter because Brighton's setup is the way it was, which was completely different to ours. Well, we've started to try and copy Brighton a little bit. We haven't really. We've gone one big toe in rather than both feet. So you do wonder if maybe his attitude towards Potter will slightly change with Tim Stein. That would be a very Sullivan thing to do. Potter last season, it won't work. We don't have the setup Brighton do. Employs one man, doesn't give him full control, and Sullivan go, it'll work now. We have a director of football. Bring him in. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Bring him in. Williams crediting my ability to subtly correct chatter typos on the fly. It's a trained skill over the years. Yeah, I don't mind it. People making type errors. It doesn't bother me at all. So that's why. True Courtney's asking who Moyes has improved. Bowen, Emerson. I think Emerson improved. I think Declan Rice, but you can argue Declan Rice would have improved regardless. But I do think he improved under the stewardship of David Moyes. I'd say Soufal has. I think Soufal's dipped off, by the way, but I do think. Initially, I think Soufal improved under David Moyes. Like I said, there's some, not all. I think I would put
Fornals in that conversation. I was enjoying Fornals, but that was the one moment where I often spoke last year and the year before of David Moyes proving me wrong. I think that was one of the ones where he did, where I was like, do you know what? He managed to coach Fornals into being really good at what he needed him to be good at. I watched Fornals, and I know people will disagree with me constantly with this, right? I watched Fornals before he joined West Ham quite a few times. More than I watch a lot of players before they join West Ham, just because I liked watching Santi Cazorla and they were playing for the same team. When Pablo Fornals was playing in the 10 for his previous club, really exciting. That was what I got excited about. When he played on the left for them, it's crap. I was like, what is going on here? This is not a guy who should be playing. It just didn't feel right ever. I would argue Moyes turned him into doing a really good job at what he needed to do on the left. And people always say he
improves him. We're talking about improving him. I think he molded him to fit how he wants him to play.
I think it's two sides of the same coin. Because I saw him on the left previously. He was an absolute. It was abject. It was like a guy who just didn't exist. And then he was like, and then by the time Moyes was done with him, he was good at what he needed him to do at that job, which is fine. In the same way that Ben Rama wasn't good at what he needed him to do, that doesn't mean Ben Rama's a bad left winger. But it's just different left wingers, different strokes, different folks. Bowen, we all think is a great right winger. Yet he does really well in David Moyes' system, doesn't do that well in other systems, you know? When you see him play for England, Jarrod Bowen is a considerably different player, even though he's playing the exact same position. That doesn't mean he's a bad right winger. That just means he's one that suits David Moyes' style more than he suits Southgate's or whoever else in that position at that time, you know?
Unsure, I agree, but we could be here all day debating. Bloody hell, Charlie, 50 minutes. This is the longest one we've ever done. But anyway, shall we wrap up there, Walsh?
Yeah, nothing else is going to end, so we might as well end it. There won't be any changes significantly, I guess. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Geo will be by himself for the next one, so make sure to come and keep Geo company in the morning when he sits down and does this, because he won't have me to bounce off, so he'll only have you guys. So please make sure to
Enjoy
get
your
involved.
holiday.
We do it. Yes, thank you. I'm going to spend it thinking as little about West Ham as possible after yesterday. Spending time with people who support Arsenal. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, Gio. I promise I'm going to love it. But yeah, we try to do them at 9:30. We try to do them at 9 after every game, as much as we can. So make sure to get involved if you can. But if you haven't already, subscribe. Plenty more videos to come, talking about everything. If there is any updates, if there is any, we've got 6 games to do this, that, and the other, blah, 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 any of that, you'll be damn sure to find out about it on here, and like the video because it helps us out massively. Gio, thank you. Appreciate it. See you next time, everyone. Bye.